IVM.
Hey everybody, welcome to another week on the IVM Podcast Network. If you aren't following us on social media, please do. We're IVM Podcast on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. I'd like to thank our sponsors this week, Paytm Money. As we go into God knows what week of the lockdown, we've been trying to make sure that we get as much content out to you as possible. We had some interesting episodes in the last week. Cyrus Says we had Angad Singh Ranyala on it. That was a fun episode to listen to. On the Filter Coffee podcast, we had Taslima Nasleen and Arunav Sinha on that. That was another great conversation. Karthik Srinivasan joined Varun on Advertising is Dead. And guys, look for Pratik Oswal on Paisa Vaisa podcast with Anubha Gupta. That was another great episode. I'd also like to let people know that the show that we're doing with Ms. Rashish Vidyarthi, Begin the Journey, is now going to be releasing 3 times a week. So do check that out. I'm sure you'll enjoy that. And let's get started with your show.
This is Vinit Karnik live on tape. You're listening to Storytellers and Storysellers on the IVM Podcast Network. If you've tuned into the show for the past couple of weeks, you must have heard me talk about the impact of the coronavirus pandemic on the sports and entertainment industries. On today's episode, we have someone who intimately knows this space, and I couldn't think of anyone who would be better placed to comment on where this industry is going with the coronavirus and beyond. Please say hello to Vinit Karnik, Head of ESP, that is Entertainment and Sports Partnerships at GroupM. Hi, Vinit.
Hi, Vineet. Thanks for having me on your podcast. Such a pleasure to having this chat with you. Yeah.
It's always great to talk to you, sir. And for the first time, we have both of us have the same name on the podcast as well, so it might get a little interesting for the listener.
That's absolutely awesome. Absolutely, I'm so excited personally because Vineet talking to Vineet, so like Vineet calling Vineet, kind, very nice.
Absolutely. To give my listeners a little bit of background, Vineet is someone that I have looked up to for a long time. When it comes to the biggest sports deals in the country, anybody who tracks the industry knows the insights and the comments that come from Vinit. And I think he's one of the people who has really built this whole thing from the ground up on one side, while GroupM and WPP in general have great media relations as well. Vinit leads that part. So very exciting for me to also work with him quite regularly and have him on the show. Without much further ado, let me just get into this chat. Vinit, what we would love to know personally as well, and something that I really try to bring out on this show is how you got where you are today in the larger story of this entertainment industry. What is the story of Vinit Karnik? If you could just share a little bit.
Yeah, sure, Vineet. And I don't know whether the story is exciting or no. The journey has been absolutely a fabulous journey, and some of the journey that I will talk about is sort of planned, but a lot of it is actually unplanned. So these were moving pieces when I just left college and was looking for a job in the marketing sector because when we were growing and when we were studying, media, advertising, marketing had a lot of glamour attached, and every second person in our college or school wanted to become a marketing professional or an advertising professional. So nothing was different for me. I mean, I also, as a youngster, wanted to possibly join the advertising bandwagon. And after my formal education, actually, my first job was in the Times of India. So you will find a lot of media professionals today who have come out of Times of India as an institution at some point in time, and that's no different for me. I mean, my first job was there, and but the only change was, I mean, I didn't stick around with Times of India for a very, very long time. I think I left Times of India in less than 2 years actually, because Times of India was an ocean. It was a very, very large organization. My initial days were absolutely fantastic, and I had joined them in the new department, in the new team when Times of India actually launched the Times Television. The Doordarshan Movie Club and all those initiatives of Times of India was was where I learned my initial things in the media ecosystem.
And this is about like mid 90s, sort of.
This will be mid 90s, yeah, 94
Right.
types, 94 types, yeah,
Right.
93, 94, yeah. And post that, I got a great chance to work with another gem of an organization which I have got extremely high regards in my career, was Mudra Communications. And
Right.
those days, in the entire advertising ecosystem, Mudra was the largest Indian advertising agency, so to say, in the most global network. And when I'm talking about era which is pre the DDB takeover of Mudra, or DDB
Right.
alliance of Mudra, when Mudra was
Right.
run by Mr. A.G. Krishnamurthy at the helm of the affairs,
Right.
and that's where I actually learned the tricks of the trade from a media planning, media buying standpoint. In fact, we also saw the 2.0 version those days of Mudra Videotech. And
Right.
I spent about 5 years in Mudra, so that was my first longest stint, so to say. And so post Times of India, Mudra gave me a phenomenal exposure on various different aspects of media, and so on and so forth. This happened, I mean, this continued till about 2000. So came 2000, I realized that I need to learn a bit more. And because of the Mudra Videotech exposure, I got very curious about the entertainment business, the movie business, the content business
Right.
those days. While it was not called content business in 2000, it was more entertainment than anything else. So I got an
Right.
opportunity to actually work for a studio called Padmala Telefilms, who in their 2.0 avatar were just launching their studio in Mumbai. So just to give you a background, Padmala Telefilms was the same company who did those Himmatwala, Mawali kind of films in the 80s
Right.
with Mr. Jitendra as their pet hero. They wanted to come back to Bollywood in early 2000 and wanted to make some movies, and I thought it's a very very exciting opportunity to learn tricks of the trade, because while working in Times of India and Mudra, I realized that eventually advertising is all about filming, whether it is ad filming. It's about pop culture. It's about reaching out to consumers in the way a consumer likes to consume stories, right? And I
Right.
just took that plunge and joined them without knowing anything about film production, film distribution, film exhibition. And that actually, to be very honest, if you look at it from the past and the retrospect, what happened, it actually helped me a lot, because that actually helped me understand the nuances of how a movie, how a feature film gets produced. Because the promoters, the real studio was in Hyderabad, and Mumbai was
Right.
so-called the production office, because Bollywood was resting in Mumbai. I got that free hand to learn a lot of things on film production, film distribution, the exhibitor contracts those days. And I am talking about exhibition in a very, very different avatar. Today's world would know
Yeah.
exhibition as two or three or five distributors, or
Right.
would possibly distribute films across the world. But that was not the case then. You had this entire exhibition or a distributor ecosystem in Lamington Road, in a building called NAS. I still remember those days. And
Wow.
the entire distribution community used to sit there, small little offices, and some a very very positive vibe about the entire business of cinema. Which actually, so the production used to still happen in Andheri West, but the real business of movies those days used to happen out of NAS building. And you actually had
Right.
to look at, and I'm sure you guys and your listeners would be aware of the way the film trade works. The way India is divided into states, the film
Right.
trade those days was not divided into states like those. Like for example, Mumbai Thana was one circuit, and there was Saurashtra as another circuit, TPCI. The nuances of the film production and the distribution were very, very different those days. So
Right. The territories weren't established as clearly. It was still
absolutely,
building up. Right.
absolutely. So Padmala gave me an opportunity to learn the tricks of the production trade, the distribution and the exhibition trade, because they had offices in Andheri, which was production office, and distribution office in the NAS building. And that exposure actually really helped me a lot to see the world of entertainment very, very closely. I spent about
Right.
5 years there, working on four or five Bollywood movies those days, which was good enough for me to learn the tricks of the trade. Uh, After that, spent a very, very small time with Prasad Lab to understand the lab business those days. A lot of the young guys today would question what is lab? Okay, what is a film lab got to do in this context? But those days,
Right. Okay.
the film was shot on films, and therefore you had to do the entire processing in a lab.
Right.
The post production facilities were very, very different. So I actually joined them for about an year to learn the nuances of that side of the film production business, which is actually not so relevant in today's time because most
Right.
of it is
So the
digital.
digital has come through.
Correct, correct. Having said that, so that has been an absolute gem of a learning curve. Okay. Uh, so, just to close the conversation on what I've said about some things were planned and some unplanned. So, while Times of India was a great opportunity, which came my way and took that opportunity, Mudra was a natural extension of my Times of India role.
Right.
Padmaya actually was an opportunity which I took, which came my way, and I would consider myself to be very, very lucky. So some planned, some unplanned initiatives till 2006, till I joined this great organization, which is my current organization, which is GroupM Media, which
Right.
actually gave me everything that I possibly wanted from a career standpoint. It gave me the freedom, it gave me the learning, it allowed me to use my media experience with the entertainment business because I joined Broadmind those days. In today ESP, those days ESP was called as Broadmind,
Right.
and that time sports was a very, very small business because India cricket was the only opportunity we had from a marketing and sponsorship
Right.
perspective. But those days, the movie business was booming for us, and we were actually known. The Broadmind was actually known for marketing, co-marketing movies for brands. Movies was one of the big platforms and interface for advertisers to leverage that, and we've done some fantastic campaigns and I can go on and talk about it.
I'd love to know about those campaigns. But what I really want to remark, Vineet,
Yeah,
is the journey up that you just took us through. I think what's very interesting to me is you've worked with a media owner, then you've been at an agency, then you worked in hardcore production. And when I say hardcore, I mean going out and getting post prod experience in a sort of analog world. I think it's a very beautiful sort of summation that then comes to your now I think coming on to 15 years at GroupM.
absolutely.
There's like there's a great narrative that emerges there of someone who's learned by doing at a lot of different places as well, and left a very clear imprint on how this business has grown. One thing that really stood out when you said when you were talking about Broadmind was when you compare where the movie versus sports business is now, it's a very market shift from maybe when it started out, right?
Yeah,
That's a big change. And I think the sports industry last report that ESP put out was that some 10,000 crores was what we were talking in terms of sports industry. So that's a big shift, and I'll try and cover that in a bit. But I'd love to know, in this journey from Broadmind to now ESP, what have been some of the big moments? Could be a campaign, could be a massive deal that happened where you realize that this industry is starting to level up with you.
yeah, sure, Vinit, and actually I will cover that in this part. Absolutely. So I'll tell you what. So in 2006, when I joined Broadmind, okay, the brief given to me was by GroupM was very, very simple. The brief was today the media landscape is changing, okay, and digital those days had just entered our mind space and our entire ecosystem. Okay, so we all knew that over the next 10, 12 years, the landscape, the media mix itself will change, right? And GroupM was one of the very, very few agencies who understood that those days and was way ahead of the curve. So
Right.
Broadmind was one such initiative, okay, where GroupM said that the media shift is going to happen very, very fast. The digital is going to be progressing at a very, very faster pace, okay. So they had a unit which looked at mobile as one business, internet as another business, and in the same breath they had activation business those days started, right? So
Right.
imagine the vision of some of the senior leaders that I have worked with, and I had a great privilege to work with those days, where they said that there were four new entities that they crafted those days. One was around internet and digitization. Second was around activation, and third was around entertainment, sports, and partnerships. And
Right.
entertainment, sports, and partnerships was coupled in a place called Broadmind because it was about broadening the vision of advertisers and using multiple platforms to leverage some of the kick-ass ideas that we worked with. I will speak about a couple of them to start with and then move on with the journey. Is that okay, Vinit?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay.
Would love to know.
So I mean, if I have to just capture this into couple of points, what stood out is some of the early campaigns that we did for companies like GSK, companies like Pepsi, who were a little ahead of the marketing curve. Unilever as one such company who actually did some fantastic work those days,
Right.
leveraging movies as a business and some of the campaigns. So, I mean, today we all know about Goa Fest, MVs, the great big media awards. Okay. So, the branded
Right.
content awards, those days were not existent, obviously, because the business was new, right? So, extremely happy to state on your podcast, Vineet, that I mean, Broadmind those days was one of the first agencies to actually enter the branded content as entries to win awards and compete with the other marketing categories. And extremely
Right.
happy to say that 10 years in a row, okay, we have actually won a gold or a silver for most of the campaigns that we delivered those days. Okay. So right
That's
from
fantastic.
2006 till about 2011, 2012, that business just was booming and we embraced every opportunity that came our way. Most of our
Right.
advertisers, the big boys, right from Pepsi to GSK to Nokia, we did some 150, 200 campaigns in that span of about
Wow.
8 to 10 years, right? Now
Right.
that was the scale at which we operated that business. The shift that you are seeing today, and you spoke about a very, very interesting point at how things have changed. So basically the movie business, and we will speak about some of these points in the post-COVID environment, but
Sure.
but in those 10 years what happened is we could possibly nurture every opportunity, every idea, every talent and the creative related things that we could in a span of a decade. Okay. Now
Right.
what happened is post 2008 when actually BCCI launched IPL. Okay, things took a complete different turn. Okay, so if you
Right.
look at it, the real convergence of entertainment and sport actually started happening post India winning the World Cup of 2007, the T20 World Cup of 2007. Yeah,
Right. One
immediately a
Olympic
year,
win.
absolutely. Immediately a year from now, BCCI launches an Indian Premier League, wherein you see a couple
Right.
of big boys from a India industries business side point of view, or some of the Bollywood stars who actually joined that bandwagon, and that actually
Right.
converged the two worlds, right? And after 2008, okay, lot of things changed for the branded content things and the level and the culmination of entertainment and sports as a sector big time. So while the
Right.
movie business continued, okay, the real scale from a business standpoint happened in the world of sport because IPL kept scaling up year on year till about 2010 11.
Right.
And we saw then the emergence of multiple sporting leagues. You saw a football league in the form of ISL. You saw a kabaddi league in the form of PKL, and so on and so forth. Right. So from
Tennis,
Broadmind,
badminton, all of those as well.
yeah, yeah. So from Broadmind, then we became ESP. I mean, worldwide, Broadmind's name got changed to ESP, and it gave it a complete directionally. It gave it a clear vision for all of us to just take our business to a newer heights. Okay, So Broadmind was then called ESP, which is in the current form, which is Entertainment, Sports and Partnerships. And
Right.
we actually looked at both this business together and started working on both these businesses and converging both this business. So the ideas and the basic marketing principles remained the same. Okay, the scale of operations were very very different. Yeah. So actually tipping point being the leverage of entertainment as a platform for advertisers in maybe 2004 2005. Then came the emergence of IPL in 2000 of or 2008. Okay,
Right.
so these are two very very important years that I would say, which has actually helped our business where it is today.
That's very nicely put, and I think this mind that thought that popped up into my mind while you were talking about IPL, very pertinent. But just to think that 2006, 2007, India was not even very keen on T20 at that point. I think the World Cup win and then the whole Lalit Modi IPL episode. It's a very quick shift that India also made. I remember early around that time there were still purists in India, especially in cricket, were like, "Arey, dekhenge T20, don't know whether should be playing, not should not be playing." Very interesting sort of time there, maybe around then. What I wanted to ask you on that is just a couple of numbers that really stand out to me, right? I mean, the biggest show on TV, I think you'd buy a sponsorship at about what 30-40 cr, a title sponsorship maybe.
Right.
The biggest property on web you'd end up buying at 6 to 10 cr maybe, or maybe a little more. But the biggest properties on cricket or sports for that matter tend to have blown it all out of the water, right? So if you can help us understand how or help my listeners understand how does someone evaluate the impact of this on business, and some maybe through a couple of examples, if you could tell us some ESP examples where the business shot up spectacularly, where the response was just insane. And after that, I'd love to bring in a COVID angle, but a couple of examples, if you could share, that would be amazing.
Okay. So if you see in 2008 when IPL launched, okay, DLF was the first title sponsor of IPL. Okay, and to
Right, right,
me, IPL is more of a marketing success than anything else. Okay, the marketing community actually embraced the Indian Premier League because audience glued onto the IPL, right? So if the
right,
marketing community wouldn't have embraced IPL and if it wouldn't have worked for advertisers from a marketing standpoint, okay, I don't think IPL would have been where it is today. I mean, nobody imagined, and I take myself in that entire bucket, that I could never ever imagine that somebody can pay a 40 crores for a title sponsorship of a cricketing property, which happens in
right,
summer. Okay, the 40 crores in 2008 was a lot of money, right?
right,
But somebody somewhere in the DLF scheme of things believed that this is the way to go. And believe you me, I am a hardcore Mumbai person. I've lived all my life, born and brought up in Mumbai. Okay,
right,
I know builders like Raheja, Hiranandani, and so on and so forth. I'd never ever heard of a builder called DLF. Okay, but Indian
right,
Premier League on that one day of that launch of that logo gave us that there is a builder called DLF who's bigger than everybody.
correct,
Now, that
right,
was the
right,
potential of the IPL, that one single platform, one single day, the country will know that DLF is the biggest developer or the builder in the country. Now, that power of marketing, that power of advertising actually was embraced by a lot of marketeers those days, and that actually saw IPL through. Now that
right,
was from a central IPL point of view, right? There were teams. Then suddenly in India, while everybody in India knew about the European Premier League, okay, it was just
right.
about coming up. There were very very few people who actually could stay back late in the nights to see those matches. Okay,
Yeah,
with
I was
Manchester
one of those guys.
United, absolutely Manchester United, Chelsea, Arsenal. Very very selected few people actually could follow the entire football ecosystem in Europe. Now that got
Absolutely.
replicated in India in the form of a Mumbai Indians, Chennai Super Kings, Rajasthan Royals, Royal Challengers Bangalore, and suddenly the country took these things by storm. Imagine those 7 to 8 logos on every team, and it gave a marketeers a phenomenal opportunity to actually scale that business up. So today, if you see over the last 13 years, okay, every summer IPL is a part of every marketeer's calendar. So people plan for
Absolutely.
IPL. Okay, so it's an
Absolutely.
appointment of sorts in the calendar of a marketeer, right? Now that actually helped, and IPL kept scaling up. So that
It is
was what,
fundamentally India ka tyohar. That
yeah,
is what it has become. India never
absolutely.
had a big summer festival. Now we have a summer festival for everyone.
So social, cultural, and regional convergence is what I would say. So it actually connects India socially, culturally, and religiously. I mean, that's the power of IPL in my mind.
Absolutely, absolutely. A couple of things from then on in terms of IPL. I think what's interesting now, and to bring in the current environment and scenario into this, with the coronavirus pandemic literally shutting everything down, how do you think live sports specifically, because of so much money that is riding on it around the world, not just in India, how do you think we're going to see these live sports carry on in the future? Do you see a change expected? I mean, I'm not even talking about financially, and we'll come to the TV money and the gate receipts and the advertising money, but in the form in which it is organized, with massive crowds coming together, with such highly paid, high value individuals also all congregated in the same area, do you think it's too much of a risk to start doing it in the same fashion again? Will we need like massive changes to how we organize live sports?
So, Vineet, before we get into the post-COVID era, there are some of the important aspects that have happened in the Indian entertainment and sports landscape, which we need to recognize before we go there. So, I'll just take
Sure,
about few minutes there. So I mean,
sure.
we spoke about IPL in 2008 and the journey of IPL over the 13 years period, right? What also happened because of IPL, the India cricket got scaled up big time. Okay.
Right,
India cricket got scaled up big time in 2010, 2011. Okay. So we, from an industry standpoint, did a couple of things. Okay. So we immediately created various different tools and ROI driven mechanisms to evaluate the sporting and the entertainment properties. So that's what we
right,
started doing in 2010. Okay. 2011, we realized, 2011, 2012, we realized that there is a huge amount of IP business, which is the live events business. Okay. So we immediately implemented our learnings of world of sport and world of entertainment to the live
right,
events business. Okay. So when I say live events, I'm talking about things like Sunburn, things like IFA Awards, Filmfare Awards, Mumbai Marathon, these kind, and various different concerts that we have today. So we created various different tools which actually help the advertiser and the right holder community or the IP owner community who could come together. Okay. So a couple of landmark things was when we possibly did the Paytm deal for BCCI, where for the first time ever you saw a complete new age advertiser taking a big position, a long term position on India cricket. Now, that was
right,
only possible because marketeers had that confidence on IPL, confidence on cricket, and confidence on various different evaluation parameters that we actually brought together. Okay.
right,
So, so we spoke about entertainment and sports converging. We added another wheel in a cog in the wheel called live events to our entertainment practice. So
right,
entertainment, which was only about movies, also became about live events. Okay, and therefore the convergence became a quite a big, big bucket, right? So
right,
advertisers started leveraging it quite beautifully those days. But we still saw that only 15, 20, 25 people were warming up, or 25 marketers were warming up to these things. So we created one sort of a playbook or a tool where which gave industry two publications, okay, two reports, so to say. One of the reports that we launched in 2014 was the Sporting Nation in the Making, and the other
right,
one we launched was called the Showbiz. Now, while Sporting Nation in the Making was from the point of view of evangelizing sports as a business, Showbiz was more from the point of view of giving scale to the entertainment and live business and how can marketeers leverage this opportunity, right? Now, these
right,
three things between 2010 and 2016, the convergence of live events with the entertainment sector, getting India cricket to as big as maybe IPL or similar post 2012, and some of the ROI tools that we had launched and we had created at a GroupM level, and the publications and the reports that we created actually evangelized that space for us for sure. So it was very important
Right.
for us to know on this podcast uh, these four things, which also actually helped the entire sector from a GroupM standpoint, from a marketing standpoint, to actually see the light of the day, where it was not only about big monies and big campaigns, but it was also about ROI driven, objective driven marketing, which actually helped marketers justify the every rupee that they were spending on those campaigns.
And I mean, I just want my listeners to know that the reports that Vinith is talking about are reports that I have personally also referred to several times while making presentations. So I think that was very beautifully put in as part of the previous question that we left out. And what's very interesting to me personally, as someone who's a fellow practitioner of this sort of entertainment partnerships thing, especially for brands, is that even more than other advertising or other media, this is an effort at quantifying what is quality, right? I mean, it sort of stands out in the ICL versus IPL. What is perceived to be better quality? When, especially when you're doing it for emerging sports, what league is perceived to be good quality, and how do we quantify that quality of the entertainment partnership in ROI terms? So. While the science of this is something that I think GroupM has helped develop over the long term, I'll come back to my previous question, which was,
Yeah,
how do you see this now pan out? That the fundamentals of the live and sports business might completely change, and for that matter, movie business as well, right? No, nobody's expecting shoots to go back till August, September. We don't have new movies that are coming out. So uh, एक अल्प विराम लग गया है in the entire business, if I'm to say that
right.
dramatically. But what do you think, Vinith? How do you see it fundamentally changing, primarily the live sports business, because the money riding on it is insane, right? I mean, you look at what Star has paid for IPL, or the general TV money that's floating around in the European leagues or the NBA. Um, where do you see us going from here, especially in the live sports business?
Actually, I would not single out live sport here, Vineet. Actually,
Sure.
the relevance of this question is not only for live sports, but a similar situation we are in for the live sport, the live events, and even the entertainment and the movie business nationally, whether it's Bollywood, Hollywood, or even regional for that matter, right? Because we have
Right,
such a
absolutely.
massive regional thing in India, okay? Mainly in the south. I mean, the Tamil, the Telugu industries are massive, right? Now,
Right,
now, just to give you a heads up, I mean, while I have no answers to your questions in terms of what will happen, okay, what will certainly happen is that we will have to right now take this time out of the lockdown to reimagine the entire business model of all these three things that we spoke, Vineet. Yeah, and we will
right,
have to. We have no option. We have no choice but to reimagine and reinvent the entire business model. Okay, I am not naming the film. Okay, but I have just got a notification on my mobile phone about half an hour back, or maybe an hour back, okay, where one of the
right,
big movies which was supposed to be released in the next 2 months is considering a digital only, OTT only release, right?
right.
Now, that
Yeah.
notification just gave me a complete different. I mean, it just I mean, and the timing is so right for this podcast where I just spoke to you about my journey. And if this is the way, this is the new normal, then
Hmm.
imagine we are in for a complete different way of looking at these businesses. So, for example, I
Absolutely.
definitely expect. We should definitely expect the social distancing law coming in, while we all know
Right,
the way what social distancing is all about, and the government of India and various state governments have been educating all of us in terms of what we need to do. but there will be a formal way of working, way of life coming soon for sure. I don't know how much longevity it will have, but it will stay for 6 to 8 months for sure. I mean, that's the visibility I have at this point in time. I can't say anything beyond that. It all depends upon the way the virus curtails worldwide, right? So a lot of things will change. What we will have to do is, when I say reimagine, let me give you a couple of points of what I want to reimagine, right? So I want to
Right.
reimagine lot of the cost elements in our business, Vineet. Yeah. So I want to
Right. Right.
imagine how we used to stage every sporting event, right from cricket to football to kabaddi to badminton. We will have to reimagine the entire way of expenses that we used to do on those businesses, right? Because the
Right.
reason why I'm saying it, because the social distancing norms are going to be quite stringent. Okay, it may not allow too many people. Like if you look at our entertainment
Yeah.
business, okay, every movie shoot would have easily about 150 to 200 people on the set.
Easily.
Yeah, easily. Now, if we have to reimagine those 200 people coming down to say 70 or maybe 80, now what
Right.
would we want to do? Is what we need to possibly reimagine. Now, if
There's
we
some
have
very hard decisions to be made.
maybe we will come up with answers and solutions with the help of technology, which might not need so
Sure.
many people
Yeah.
to be on the set. Okay,
Yeah.
today, if we have to hold a sporting live sporting event, whether it's cricket or football, basketball, doesn't matter. Okay, it requires X amount of people who are organizing that entire live match, right? I'm not talking about
Right.
fans here yet. I'm not talking about the production, the technical crew. Now, will there be a technology which will help us do the same thing with limited people? Okay. So therefore, the entire cost model will have to be reworked. Okay, whether it is Bollywood, whether it is sports, the cost of acquisition, the cost of talent will have to be revisited in the new normal. Okay, because
Right. Right.
eventually it has to make business sense for the ecosystem to survive. Now, we spoke about a fabulous journey from 1995 to 2020. Yeah, it was on the back of growth scale. It all happened because people in the ecosystem made money. The fans
Right.
were happy because they got to see fantastic content, fantastic sports. The distributors, the exhibition business, the investors made money. Therefore, it was a business model which was put together. So we will have to
Right.
see this pandemic from a business model point of view. So we will have to reimagine the cost. We'll have to reimagine the business model, and maybe we'll have to take some radical decision to ensure that we survive the post-pandemic area. It is very, very important, and I use this word survive because if we don't control our costs and we don't control our and if we don't reimagine our business model, it's a question of survival, because the world will not be the same, certainly, and we have heard a lot of webinars and articles worldwide written on this, that we are talking about survival today, right? So we will have to
Right.
reimagine a lot of things from a cost point of view, and how will it be relevant in the new normal is the plan which we all need to work on. And therefore, I'm saying that reimagine, reorganize, and rebuild a business model. I mean, that's the way I would look at the post pandemic and the post COVID-19 phase.
I think there's some very, very pertinent thoughts, food for thought there, Vinit. Just to add to that, you touched upon technology and the role that technology is going to play. I know it's a buzzword that gets thrown out a lot, but given that now is the time that new technologies are getting adopted, do you see a role for stuff like VR to play in what sports delivery could be? I know we still have problems with access and devices, etc. But specifically, do you think there is a bigger role that VR could play here in this scenario?
Absolutely, absolutely, Vineet. I will not negate any technological interface at this point in time, because
Right.
what's the way I see a new normal for the entertainment, live and the sports business is about adopting technology, which will help us control lot of cost heads which are currently today, because we are a very very premium and an expensive business, and we must admit that. Okay, we are a lot
Absolutely.
privileged. We are a lot privileged business, I would say. Now, how are we going to be reorienting ourselves to the new normal? Is actually the question. So, adoption of VR absolutely a possibility. While I'm not going to be suggesting any particular changes on this podcast at this point in time, because still a lot of work needs to get happen, a lot of
Right.
adoption needs to happen, not only at the business or a marketing end, but also at talents end, also at the right holders end, also at
Right.
the federations end. Okay, because we are already seeing a massive hit on this sector. I mean, you rightly said that we don't even know when the theaters will open up. We don't know when the government is going to be allowing us to shoot. We don't know whether the live sport will happen with fans, without fans, only for TV.
Yeah.
We have seen Olympics being pushed to 2021. We've seen all the Grand Slams in the world of tennis being pushed to 2021. We have seen Formula
Right.
One. We have seen NBA. We have seen IPL in the suspension mode. Uh, so therefore, this is serious implication, and let's not shy away from accepting it that this is serious implication. Now, if the big
Absolutely.
movie that I was talking to you about, and it is a really big movie, is talking about
You,
digital only
are you
film.
talking about Jyotika's movie?
No, it's a Bollywood film.
Oh, okay, okay.
Yeah. So, I mean, the question is, does the digital or the OTT platforms have the bandwidth to cover the cost of theatrical
Right.
extractions of that movie, plus television, plus this? So it's a complete different mathematical analysis that one needs to do from a business model standpoint. So it's not going to
Right.
be easy.
Right.
So therefore, my humble submission to all you people, including myself, and the younger generation today, is to think about, take this time out, be positive, and not look at what needs to be done and what will happen, and not worry about that so much, but look at disrupting the current business models, and show the industry the way of the new normal. And these kind of solution needs to be worked out and not worry about. So we need to take this positively, because we can't do anything about the coronavirus situation, right? I mean, none of us are medical
Right.
practitioners who can help the world in creating a vaccine. So what we can do what we should do about what we know the best. And we need to give this industry a complete new way of looking at doing this business, and that's what we should help the industry with. And I am spending a lot of time in reading, writing, working at various different models, looking at various different ways of doing this business. So the way I knew doing this business in the last 2 decades is not going to be the way I'm going to be doing the same business in the next 1 decade, right? So this is where
Right.
I am spending most of my time with over the last 4 weeks that we have been in lockdown stage.
I just loved it. I just loved the way you put that across, Vineet. I think there's a lot of optimism that is required. There's a lot of intelligence that is also required, and I think with the way that we have taken technology into our lives in all other aspects, this is another aspect that we'll be able to do. We are already seeing some of it happen. The whole OTT taking movies on is an intervention of technology that is going to replace first day first show. But like you said, the mathematics of it will go much deeper. Again, I'm trying to do it in my own little way when we don't have studio time anymore. Usually I record in a studio, there's like a
Sure.
producer sitting around, there's a sound guy, but again, we've also tried to figure out a technology way to do this podcast in a simpler, cheaper way.
Sure.
The thing that, although I mean, while sports and movies and entertainment at large is suffering, the one part of our business that seems to be seeing a massive rise is gaming. Um, a stat that really stood out to me while I was talking to one of our clients last week was the video market today is about 375 million, while the gaming market has also come to about 360, 370 million. And that's a very interesting tipping point for India, which is, you know, always been a video first country. All our advertisers have always been video first, whether it's the levers of the world or whether it's new guys. But with gaming now in this situation where there is a sort of 1/4 of the country is playing at least some kind of game at any given point in time. The stay is longer, time spent is also longer. What do you think? I mean, in your opinion, where do you see this industry now poised to make a? I mean, in my opinion, it's poised to make a leap in a big way. But in your wisdom, what would be the prerequisites now for it to really happen? The numbers seem to be there, but is there something that's stopping gaming from growing in a bigger way as a business, or do you think that's just about to happen any moment now?
Okay, so without a doubt, gaming was always big, Vineet. So we have, I think, over 40% of India's population is under 30 or 25, is what I'm
Right.
reading, right? Now, gaming, if you look at the numbers that you just mentioned, okay, so most of the gaming that you will see, I mean, I've seen some early numbers for the last 4 weeks, and most of the growth that has happened in gaming downloads and time spent is in the age group of 12 to 28. Okay,
Right. Right.
that's the maximum where a place where the growth is, and rightfully so. Now imagine these guys, okay, when they come out of the the COVID environment, they are not going to be stopping play. There might be a sort of a marginal drop in the time spent because life will come to
Right.
a normalcy. People will start going to schools, colleges, workplaces, and all of that. But I think somewhere the Western market was talking to us very significantly, saying that why is India not warming to the gaming and the esport business or the entire. So there has been a lot of initiatives being taken in India. There was a live PUBG competition. There was a live multiple live gaming and esport arenas has
Right.
been built in India over the last 3-4
ESL,
years.
DreamHack,
ESL
all of
and
those are
DreamHack and all of that, correct? Now somewhere this is going to be an a era where we will not have a option but to embrace these things. There could have been some kind of a resistance embracing these things because the problem with the gaming industry is the numbers. There is no third party intervention on these numbers yet. The moment you have got
right.
some kind of
Right.
a measurement around it, some kind of a confidence building around it, some kind of a ROI driven models being built on this, I'm sure the advertising or the marketing community will embrace it. See, the audience has embraced it already. I mean, they're serious. We are seeing double-digit growth in every aspect of gaming, right from downloads to time spent to number of males versus females. Everything is grown double digits in the last 4 weeks. And I think this possibly could be a tipping point, so to say, for gaming as a sector. And I'm pretty confident that this is there to grow. Not taking away that I'm not comparing live sport and gaming out here, but when I say tipping point, there is definitely a tipping point for the gaming and esports sector at this point in time, and there definitely needs a reinvention for the way we organize and consume live sport. So that's the way I will put it.
I agree completely. I think the one thing, my favorite bit that has come out of what the sports and entertainment sector has done during COVID is how professional sports people have started representing themselves or their teams in virtual tournaments. So
Absolutely.
whether it's the Sky Sports and Premier League coming together to do FIFA tournaments, or Formula One doing the
Absolutely.
races virtually, or MotoGP doing it like that, I think
True.
that's just a beginning of something that could go on and be larger. We already have Premier Leagues who have official uh, gamer athletes, right?
Yes.
People who have a jersey number and their own name on the jersey and officially represent clubs. So just a space that's growing very fast. And again, I think you hit it on the head when you said the ROI modeling and metrics still need to be figured out for it to scale. But super exciting for personally as a gamer and as a marketer as well to see this space come to its head. Vinit, my penultimate question to you,
Yeah.
and again, before I go to the question, I would really love to say, like to say that thoroughly enjoyed this conversation. I think a couple of things that really stand out from hearing your experience and your views is the enthusiasm that you bring to it, right? And the optimism, absolutely. Can you share a couple of things that you would say to someone who's starting out in advertising or media in this time, and eventually looking at moving to entertainment or wants to work in entertainment marketing? A couple of things that that they should always keep in mind for growth and for success.
Okay, so first of all, one needs to be passionate about what he or she is doing. So it's not only about content marketing, which is a buzzword today. It's not only about entertainment.
Right.
These are glamorous names, and it looks glamorous, but you have to look at it from a passion point, because these are also very tough businesses. While we all have stories which are great stories, but these are all tough business, because if you look at the way the entertainment business has changed over the last 2.5 decades. Okay, every 5-7 years the business has reinvented itself, right? Now,
Right.
so basically, I keep saying that my generation is one generation who has seen three recessions and one COVID-19, right? We
Right.
have seen one. We are born in the era where you had one Doordarshan, from one Doordarshan to DD Metro to satellite television, to a complete different ecosystem of 24 hours news channels, and now we are talking about OTT, and now post COVID, you never know how all these media platforms would possibly function. I mean, it's anybody's guess. So
Right.
therefore, read a lot, do a lot of. So today, what digital allows us to do is learn, and also unlearn at the same time. So there's so many digital courses, so many things in the digital era, in the digital ecosystem, which you can do right now. Spend time reading, because I don't see the younger lot reading too much these days. Okay, and
Right.
I might sound a bit older out here, but one needs to read a lot for you to actually recognize whether you belong to that space or no. Once you start reading, you need to practice that to some extent before you actually take the plunge, right? So therefore, do a lot of these courses that are available on internet today. Right from to film production to marketing to emotional intelligence to psychology. There's much more that the digital environment offers us today, being at home and being in a lockdown scenario. So my only two bits to the younger generation is that it's a very, very bright generation. It's a very, very privileged generation. Just be
Right.
positive. Just look at reinventing the. Don't look at what we did in the past. Okay, those are great talking points, but look at what you want to do and the way you want to change that landscape. Because that's the only differentiator which you will bring to the business. Otherwise, a sport is going to be a sport. You can't change the way cricket is played.
Right.
Maybe from a test match cricket to a ODI to a T20 to a T10. Beyond that, you can't change it, right? So look at what marketing interventions would you want to bring to the entire business based on the knowledge and the passion that you have. Learn a lot, read a lot, and practice those learnings in the way you can. And that's the only way we as an industry are looking up to the younger generation who are in their 30s right now to possibly radically think, come up with different ideas where we can possibly take your help and so your help and on radical ideas with our experience should merge together in getting the industry out of the post-COVID, post-pandemic kind of an environment, and that's the message I will have to the younger listeners that we have on your show.
That's very, very beautifully put. I mean, I felt inspired as well, and I think it definitely adds a perspective from your experience for sure. Vinny, thank you so much for making time. I know it's been 24/7 for you as well, especially in the COVID time with so much happening and so much back and forth, not just uh, on the brand side, but also within the business and restructuring and helping figure out how we will survive this, like you said. My last question before I let you go
Sure.
is, would you recommend a piece of entertainment for my listeners, something that's close to your heart, something that you've enjoyed? It's something that I ask each of my guests before they leave. So yeah, a piece of entertainment for my listeners as recommended by Vinit Karnik.
Okay, so what inspires me from an entertainment standpoint is music. Okay, So I am spending a lot of time listening to music, and the taste of music for all of us will be different. Okay, so my motivation point is music, and lot of content pieces that I'm also catching up on OTT, because obviously television is playing a lot of repeats. So I have caught up with a lot of content which I wanted to from a documentary standpoint. I have caught up with a lot of content which the sports channels have been playing, which are repeats of some legendary past matches in the world of sport, right from cricket to tennis. So I've enjoyed doing that. So music, some of the past great matches which are inspiring leadership lessons also for us in terms of how have actually the best talent in the world overcome their fears and won multiple matches for themselves in the individual sports or in team sports. So these are the things I have been catching up, and I would obviously want to encourage a lot of your listeners to look at the pop culture, because I belong to that sector. So from a consumption standpoint, I consume music. I consume a lot of the documentary things, because that gives you inspiration and learning from a very different background standpoint. And of course, some legendary matches that I could catch up in the last 4 weeks.
That's fantastic. It's a great insight into how your unlearning and learning process is also going. Vinit Karnik, thank you so much for spending this hour talking to me. I had a wonderful time. I'm pretty sure our listeners are going to get some gold about the industry from this episode. Once again, thank you so much to my
Vinit.
listeners. Thank you.
Thank you, Vineet, for having me, and I hope this adds some value to your listeners. And absolute pleasure of having this conversation with you. Loved every bit of it. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Vineet. That's it on this episode of Storytellers. And
stay safe, stay healthy is the final thing that I would want to say.
Absolutely. Stay safe, stay healthy, and help out around the house. Don't leave it to someone else.
Absolutely.
There's a lot to do.
Absolutely.
Thanks so much, Vineet.
Thank you.
That's it from me. This is Vineet Kanabar saying goodbye.
Hi, my name is Anubha Gupta. I'm B50 on Twitter. I am the host of Paisa Vaisa, the show that talks money. On my show, I speak to experts from every field of money and finance, from stock markets, equities, debt funds, credit cards, life insurance, every possible area of money and finance that you can think of. We even did an episode on cryptocurrency. I've got fantastic guests from mutual funds to personal finance experts everywhere. Robo-advisory, startups, just name it, we've got it. At Paisa Vaisa, we help you make smart decisions about money. You work hard for money. Now make your money work hard for you. New episodes out every Monday, and you can listen to my show on the IVM Podcast app or any other podcasting app that you have.
Hi, I'm Satyajit.
Hi, I'm Racheta.
We are from the Open Library Project, and we host a podcast called Paperback.
Paperback is a podcast where we engage with stalwarts and experts from various industries, suggesting non-fiction titles that contributed to their journey in a big way.
We've had guests like Anjali Raina, Dr. Marcus Rani, Dr. Swati Lodha, Ambi Parmeswaran, Apurva Damani, and many more on our show Paperback. Find new episodes every Wednesday on IVM Podcast app, website, or wherever you listen to podcasts.